Hello, everyone. You are watching Self Care Infinity. For more information on Self Care Infinity, check out my Instagram page, official Ray Galvan. And to keep updated with the episodes, I will be releasing them Mondays and Wednesdays. Thank you. Hi, everyone. This is Self Care Infinity, and I am here with MacKenzie Amney, right? That's how
Hi,
you
yeah.
pronounce it? Okay.
Yep.
And we're just gonna, dive deep into self care. So here is the first question I have for Mackenzie, which is, what does self-care mean to you?
For me, self care is a way to kind of relax and detox from all the negativity like in our lives that we get anyway. We all have our own struggles, and like we need to spend time worrying about ourselves. I feel like as we get older, we spend more time like worrying about other people and taking care of everyone else. And so for me, self care is just kind of spending time on yourself and like figuring out your own stuff.
Yeah, I agree. Self-care is it's just really about yourself, focusing on yourself.
Yeah.
And it's okay to take that time away from, people and yeah, like you're not isolating yourself, but at the same time you kind of are, but in a
Hmm.
safe way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so what are things you do for self-care?
Some stuff I like to do. I watch like light, happy TV shows instead of like heavy stuff. Sometimes I do, but like most of the
Yeah.
time, you just watch happy stuff that like makes you smile. I FaceTime with my friends a lot. I like 4 times a week I'm on FaceTime with like different people at like the end of a long day. It just helps a lot. I like to paint and I like going to the movies by myself, not when there's a pandemic happening,
Yeah.
but like before that, I love going to the movies by myself. I find it so relaxing just to, like pick whatever you want to watch and like do it on your own time and like spend that time by yourself.
Yeah. I agree with what you were saying because that's what I do usually. The first one where you're
Mhm.
talking about watching light happy shows, like I'll do that, but then I'll watch like my occasional like I don't know why, but I watch
Yeah.
like Grey's Anatomy. Like I'll
Oh,
watch
I
the
do too.
saddest episodes.
Right. You'll watch like the sad stuff that makes you cry, but
Yeah,
then it's like you'll turn on like Friends or something happy
yeah, yeah,
and you're
yeah,
like,
definitely.
yay, like you just feel lighter after that.
Yeah. So like I find that kind of funny for me, like it switches, but
Yeah.
But I mean, I used to do that too, like about the movies. Like I would go to the movie and watch a movie by myself. I'd have my snacks and be like
Yeah. It's
relaxing.
just like your time. I don't
Yeah,
it feels different than sitting in your house watching something. Like
yeah,
it's nice to like go do it and like spend that
yeah,
time actually doing it.
yeah. And I actually seen people criticize or like they're made fun of for going by themselves to watch a
Yeah.
movie. And
Yeah.
it's like, well, I mean, do you?
Right. I like to do it. So,
Yeah, I think more people should do that for sure.
yeah.
Yeah, so you mentioned watching a show, going to the movies. You also mentioned FaceTiming and painting.
Mhm.
So painting, like, do you base that off like whatever you're painting based off your mood, or are you working towards something?
It's usually based off my mood. Like I usually paint if I'm feeling down. I don't usually paint when I'm happy, which I feel like is weird. I always paint when like I'm feeling down or something. And usually I'll paint it based on like a show or a song or something that makes me happy. And so I'll paint about something happy and it usually helps.
Yeah, I feel that way with writing. I
Mhm.
I can't I don't know why, but I can't write when I'm happy. Like the
Yeah.
ideas don't float to me when I'm happy. If I'm
Right.
sad or
It's like
like
I get the inspiration when I'm not happy,
yeah.
which I feel like is kind of weird, but
I mean, it's weird, but it's also effective in a sense
yeah.
because I think artists in general, we get inspired by, I hate to say that word, but by pain,
Right. No, you're right.
by like emotional or physical and mental pain. So
Mhm.
that's our cathartic way of releasing our emotions, like painting, writing, taking
Right. Like
pictures and
doing
stuff.
something with that emotion like helps process it.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I think that's why, like for me personally, that's why I like writing because it's easy to just write it
Yeah.
out. Um, But yeah, I also liked what you said about FaceTiming your friends. I think right now, especially in the pandemic, I talk to many people, and it's kind of hard because in the beginning of the pandemic, we were told to stay in our houses. We were given an order, stay in our houses, no contact with anybody else. And a lot of people were saying, well, we kind of need that human contact. And that's very true. We do need our human contact.
Yeah.
I haven't seen any of my friends physically since March. I've known people who have seen their friends since March.
Yeah.
So it did take it did take like a toll on me mentally because it didn't hit me until like later. I'm like, oh, I do miss them, but it's not
Yeah.
like it's different when you're texting them or FaceTiming them because you miss the physicality of them. So
Hmm.
like my form of self-care before was really mostly hanging out with my friends, and it was like um directed to like distraction. So like I want to distract myself, so I'm gonna go hang out with my friends. And one
Hmm.
of the ways was like, going to the movies. Like I'll go to the movies with my friends, or like we'll plan a day like at the beach. The beach is like my favorite place to go to. So
Love
like
that.
yeah, so like I was pretty sad when this began because I'm like, I'm not going to the beach. This is probably the first summer because I made a tradition of going to the beach at least once every summer. This is the
Hmm.
first summer that I didn't go. So I was
Oh.
pretty sad. But I think yeah, like we miss the physicality of our friends and like whoever we usually hang out with or talk to, you
Yeah.
know. But I do think it's effective now, like that we have FaceTime and like Zoom and other web features because it does help, but it doesn't exactly replace that feeling.
Right. It's definitely helpful and like a good thing that we have all of these options now. Like at least like
Yeah,
it's helpful. It's not the same.
yeah, definitely. I mean, I still miss my friends.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so what are some tips you have for self-care?
One tip I have is to like be selfish sometimes. Like it's okay to do what you want to do and like worry about yourself because sometimes you want to be helping other people constantly, but it's a lot. So like one thing is just to be selfish. And like one like something I struggle with is knowing that like my peace is just as important as someone else's, but I like to keep the peace between other people. So I just
Yeah,
don't spend time like worrying about myself all that much.
yeah,
And so being selfish is definitely something. And then another tip I had was just to do what makes you happy. Like I kind of had the same point of like some people think it's weird that I like to go to the movies by myself, but it's something that makes me happy. So like I'm not going to let someone talk me out of doing it. And so I
yeah,
feel like a lot of times people try to like get you not to do something you like because they don't like it, but just do what you like to do. It's way more fun that way.
yeah, yeah. Like kind of the mentality of you do you like treat
Yeah,
yourself.
pretty
Yeah,
much. Like you're doing it for yourself, so just do something that you like to do. It doesn't matter if your friends or whatever don't like it because you're not doing it for them. You're doing it for yourself.
yeah. So those are the tips you have, right?
Yep.
Okay, so going back like on being selfish, I think that's number one of self-care. You got to be selfish. That's what self-care is. Like the first word literally is self. Like think about yourself. So
Yeah.
I think that's another thing I want to talk about, like because there is a thin line between the idea of asking for space for your self-care and
Mhm.
like knowing like if that's okay to ask. Like for you personally, do you feel like if you feel like, oh, I need some time to myself, do you feel like the need to tell your friends like, oh, I'm gonna take some time to myself, if I don't respond it's because of that,
Mhm.
or what do you do?
It honestly depends on the friend for me, because like I said, I spend a lot of time on FaceTime, and sometimes like I'll just text them and be like, hey, tonight I don't have the energy to like keep up a conversation. So sometimes I will let people know if we have something planned. I'll be like, I can't keep up the conversation today. I can't deal with it. I have to worry about my own stuff. But then sometimes if it's just like not answering some text messages, sometimes I won't, just depending on how important they are. If it's like an important conversation, like I'll answer it or I'll warn them. But if it's just like, normal casual text, like I just won't answer those.
Yeah, I think same thing with me. like I'll try my best like to let them know, or like it depends
Mhm.
on the conversation.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's for me. I feel guilty like if I don't respond or like.
Uh-huh.
But I think lately I've been developing a habit where I don't respond as much because I think my one thing that I wanted to work on for myself is be more present and kind
Mhm.
of just do more things for myself. And that's another thing for self-care. Self-care isn't like necessarily like momentary or like like just like it's not just like one day. It's like a constant thing if you want to work on it. So like for me, like I want to work on things that I'm not usually good at. Like I want to be more open to new things. I want to like work on, you know, my building my confidence, like stuff like that. And
Mhm.
I think like a lot of people they struggle with that because like they don't want to be considered selfish. They don't want to be considered like,
Yeah.
you know, they it's a struggle because you want to be there for the people that are in your life as well,
Yeah.
but you also have to take care of yourself, and I think that's very important. Like you have to put yourself first. Like you can't help, I've repeated this in multiple episodes so far, but you can't help anybody else until you help yourself first.
Right. Right. You can't worry about taking care of someone else if you are trying to figure out your own things.
Yeah, like that's that's exactly what I think, so yeah, like take care of yourself first. That's like a big tip for self-care.
Yeah.
Okay. So since we're talking about tips, we're now gonna do a segment that I started for this series called Infinite Tips. Drum roll. Da,
Yay.
da, da. I wish like I had an actual drum, but whatever.
Get some sound effects.
Yeah. So I have two people who sent in some tips. They're both gonna be anonymous. The first tip is about physical health. The person said, so for self care, I think about mostly physical health. I know mental, physical, and emotional health have this like health triad, but I think the easiest to start with is physical. I think it's important to go out and absorb the sun as much as you can because it's important to feel healthy. So I like to go out in the mornings for 10 minutes and try to just feel my skin warm up. I feel relaxed after. I also think it's important to have proper sleep and incorporate vegetables for a huge change of energy. Eventually, I feel that it has improved how I felt about myself and made me feel cared for. So I think that's a very good tip
Mhm.
because I think when we think of self care, we don't really think about the physical so much.
Yeah.
For me, when I think about it, I'm like, it's kind of like a lazy day.
Yeah, me too. I think of more like mental health and like spending my time like inside, like in my
Yeah.
area instead of like going out and doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think we all think that. So physical is kind of like the last thing that's on our mind for it. But I
Mhm.
think he or she brought up a good point about going outside for like, a few minutes and like trying to let the sun
Yeah.
warm you up, but
Yeah.
just doing something physical in general. He brought up like sleep. I think that's very important. If you don't have I think it's 8 hours, right?
I think so.
Yeah, if you don't have your 8 hours, like that's gonna affect your day, your mood. I know
Yeah.
that for a fact. I could get cranky in the morning, and that sets up, the tone for the day.
Yeah.
So it's important to have that sleep. And then talked about vegetables, and then I guess that's mostly like diet stuff, like just making sure you have a good diet. And like I think when people think of diet, they think like, oh, super healthy, but
Right.
diet just means like being eating healthy. Like
Yeah. Stuff that's good for you. It doesn't
there you go.
necessarily mean like you're trying to like lose weight or like focus on anything specific. Like just eating good, like fresh things.
Yeah, and I think the more, yes, you can like eat whatever you want, but you have to be careful about what you eat because ultimately, like, it affects you in a negative way.
Mhm.
All right, so that was one person. Here's another person. Another person. Sorry. Okay, the second person told me they it's the same thing about sleep schedule. Make sure your sleep schedule's on track. They said that they make sure they have an efficient night routine that ensures they get their basic 8 hours of sleep. Any less can be physically draining for the body and the next day. They also said they like to go out even if they're alone and getting some sun, even if it's just for an hour, it makes a difference. It puts you in a better mood. And also they go on walks every now and then.
Hmm.
I go for my walks every day now.
Yeah.
Mostly that's my form of exercise, which I like comparing myself to other people. I do feel lazy because everyone's like, I'm working out, and I'm like,
Right.
that's my workout. But it's a good thing to do because I mean, there's a pro and there's a con to it. There's a con in the fact that like if you do go walk by yourself, you might overthink a lot, which I do not like.
Yeah.
But I haven't been doing that as much, so I feel good about that. So the pro is that you're getting your exercise in, even if it's just like for a few minutes or an hour, you're going for a walk, and as long as you do
Hmm.
that, you're kind of relieving some tension, which I found effective.
Yeah.
So I think
And
that's important. Yeah.
yeah, and like even just going outside and like being in the sunlight is good for you. Like I used to have this friend who he would tell me every day like 15 minutes of sunlight can like change your mood. And so he would always make me like go outside. He was like, "All right, 15 minutes. We're just gonna sit out here." And I was like, "All right." Like I like to be inside.
Yeah.
So I was like,
But
all right, we can do that." And it was just like 15 minutes a day. It was like nice to sit outside.
yeah, I feel like the introvert in me would just want to see inside.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. But I think that's good. Like you also need like people who can kind of not necessarily push you, but kind of like reinforce some new way of thinking.
Yeah, they kind of get you to do things that like you wouldn't think to do yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's another great tip for self care. Try new things, like
Yeah.
things out of your comfort zone. Um, I'm trying to think of stuff that I did out of my comfort zone so far. I'm not so sure. I mean, maybe doing this itself,
Yeah.
because I, 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 I can't speak.
That's okay, me either.
Yeah, so like I didn't want to do this kind of because I was just like, well, who's gonna see it? But at the same time, I was like, well, I want to do it. You know, I
Right.
was inspired a lot by Miley Cyrus. She had like a similar kind of talk show in the beginning of the
Yeah.
pandemic. It was called Bright Minded, and she was like talking about self care, and I would watch it and stuff and feel like engaged to it, and I'd be like, oh, those are good tips.
Hmm.
So shout out to Miley because she's the real pro here.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think trying new things is very important. It's a great way of
Yeah.
self care.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And like something that I'm not great at. Usually for self care, I like go to stuff that I'm comfortable with because it can make you feel better.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
like getting out there and trying new stuff definitely can help like improve your mood and that kind of thing.
definitely. So the last question I had was, what professions, in your opinion, can elevate awareness for self care?
I feel like all professions need to do better about putting an emphasis on self care because I feel like most places like really emphasize like working and the job and that kind of stuff and kind of forget that these are people like doing these jobs that have their own issues and their own stuff to deal with every day. And so I'm in the social work field and we spend a lot of time talking about self care in our classes because as social workers and like therapists and that kind of stuff, we spend a lot of our day talking about negative aspects of life. So we our classes are usually kind of heavy. We watch like hard videos to watch and we talk about those hard topics. And so we really put a like an emphasis on our own mental health because we spend so much time talking about other people's mental health that it can
Yeah,
impact you. And so actually like one thing we do in our class is make a self-care plan. And so it's basically just like a list of possible stressors in your life and a list of things you could use to cope with those stressors. Or even if it's not a stressor, it's just something you can do at the end of a long day that kind of centers you and helps you bring you back to like your life. And like I would recommend doing that. It's just a list of things that you like to do that could make you feel better. And you just kind of keep that list around and reference it when you need to. So I really like that part of my field, that we spend a lot of time talking about it, because I feel like most other professions don't really talk about it that much, and they're just kind of like, when you leave, go do whatever you want, like it's not our business, you know.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. I wow, that's a great thing to do with self-care. You said lists or
Hmm.
yeah, I feel like that's really effective. That
Yeah.
does help. That's interesting because I do think about that, like about social workers and therapists. Like, how do you guys not get drained from hearing other people's problems? Like, not in a bad way, but like, it's a
Yeah,
lot of heavy
no,
stuff.
it's definitely draining, and like something you have to do is make sure to separate their life from your life. So we spend a lot of time talking about, you have 15 minutes after your day is over to be upset. Like, use your car drive home, but as soon as you pull into your driveway, like that's your life. Like as
Hmm.
soon as you get into your driveway, like stop thinking about work, stop thinking about these other people who still need help, because you can't spend all of your time thinking about other people. And so that's like kind of a rule of thumb that we use. Like your car ride, as long as your car ride is, you can be upset about the day, but then after that, like you have to cut it off. And like that's definitely something that's hard when you're first starting. It's definitely something you have to get used to doing, because it's hard to turn it off.
Yeah. Wow. I
Yeah.
I don't know why, but I like hearing about that because they do put an emphasis on self-care.
Yeah.
Yeah. I yeah, I think that more places should emphasize that. Obviously, with your type of work, there needs to be that emphasis, but I think like just in general, like especially in like in these like food industries or like any places that are like essential worker related
Right.
right now, especially like I think it's hard for people to gravitate towards positive thinking because of the pandemic and because like all these things are
Hmm.
happening in the world. um
Yeah.
people people just need a day off, and it's not like
And
I
sometimes it's hard to get that day off. Like
exactly.
when, you have pressure from like bosses, or like you really need the money or that kind of thing, it's hard to get that day to take to yourself. But it's really important to be able to do that.
Yeah, I can't tell you how much that means to me because that's how I felt numerous times.
Yeah.
I will say that in one of my previous jobs, I did. I felt drained. I felt a lot of toxicity. I think that's the word. I can't even say it. Uh, I felt like it was draining, and like I felt so negative about it all the time. And
Hmm.
before I left that job, I took a week off, and I took that week off like to focus on myself. I was doing things for myself, and like I'm very grateful that I had the hours to put in for that. you know I know like not everyone is fortunate to be able to take some time off because
Hmm.
people have different responsibilities or their choices are limited. The idea that self-care is also, it's important to have the resources, I think, for self-care because
Yeah.
everyone is fortunate to have those resources.
Right. Not everyone even knows like where to start, like with self care. Like how do you even know when you need to do it or what you should be doing? And so that's definitely important to like get that out there.
Yeah, exactly. um I think as somebody who's working in the social work field right now, do you guys kind of preach self-care for the patients or the people that you guys are helping as well?
Yeah, definitely. Because it goes along with like coping skills. And so we definitely like, we work with our clients to find things that do make them happy. We focus a lot on client strengths. And so, we'll go through and talk about, things you think you're good at or things you like to do. And we can kind of reapply that into self care and like worrying about yourself. That's definitely something we talk about a lot.
That's good. So yeah, I like what you said about this about strength
Hmm.
because self-care is like honestly building up your strength, building
Yeah.
up your energy,
Yeah.
building up your maybe character, but you know, you're building up you're building up the positive aspects
Hmm.
because you're drained from the negative aspects of your life. So you
Right.
want to work on yourself so you can do better and get up the next day and be like, oh, I can do it, you know?
Hmm.
And that's what like a lot of self-care is about. Um I I think that's great that the work you're doing. I'm very proud of that. Like I'm proud to know a person like you because that's honestly amazing. You're helping people and I think that's
Yeah.
great. It's I like especially that they are contributing that thought that you need to take care of yourself once you get home
Yeah.
because you know the world is a very heavy and dark place especially right now, so we got to take
Hmm.
those moments of positivity, moments of energy, like whatever we can.
Right. Definitely.
Yeah, so I think those are all the questions I had. But before you go, I just wanted to share a resource for the episode. I've been doing these resources so people can know where to go for mental health resources. And yeah, so I'm going to share it really quick. So, the mental health resource of the day. So, this mental health resource is coming very soon, and it was recently approved by Congress. It's called the National Suicide Prevention Designation Act. The U.S. Congress has approved the adoption of 988, the new three-digit number for the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, and it should be completed by July 2022. So that's what if you ever feel suicidal, depressed, or any emotions like of hopelessness, you can always call that number once it's complete and officiated. um, I think that's a great tool because not a lot. It's like the equivalent of 911, but which goes straight directly to the lifeline. Um, so for now, it's not currently active, but they're building it up so it can be active. It
Hmm.
was approved by Congress, like I said. Um, so for now, if you want to, if you do feel those feelings, you can actually call 1-800-273-8255. 1-800-273-8255 or 1-800-273-TALK. So I can't wait. Well, not can't wait, but I hope that does fully form as a number.
Yeah. That's a really cool thing. I didn't know they were making that, so that's cool.
Yeah, I don't think anybody knows too much about that.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good thing to share for everybody.
Yeah. It definitely is.
Okay. So thank you, Mackenzie, for doing this. I'm happy to have you. You have great opinions and thoughts.
Well, thank you.
Continue your self care, and yeah, thank you again for this.
Yay. Thank you.